home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com. The intro cut off a little bit. I don't know what was going on there, but everybody, welcome to a Friday with Derek the Kid episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Noah Strackbine, joined every Friday on Derek the Kid Friday by Derek Bell. And right before we jumped on here, Derek starts talking about, Derek the Kid, where that came from. Because when everybody who watches this, everybody who knows Derek the Kid knows Derek the Kid. Half of the people, once you mention your last name, everybody's like, Bell. I didn't even know your last name was Bell. What's going on here? You were about to tell me I had to cut you off, though. I want to hear it here for the first time. Derek the Kid, where does it come from? Everybody, welcome to All Steelers Talk.
So when I made my Twitter back in I think it was 2010 or 2011, I was trying to figure out a username, and that's when people were just now starting to really use Twitter. So Mike Wallace was my guy. I love Mike Wallace, and his Twitter name was Wallace the Kid. So I literally I got on there one day and just made my stuff like that, and then just rolled with it. But it's so funny because how many people I've met from Twitter that literally entered basically know me as that or call me that.
The Derek the Kid.
But Wallace has been gone for so long. Wallace, he left after 2012. So I just never changed my stuff because it was I don't care. And then now that as times went on, I think people don't know where that's from because I don't know. Mike Wallace kind of got a weird reputation. I think he's kind of underrated in terms of Steelers history, just because of the way he went out. He kind of got that big contract. People, some people don't like that. But yeah, that's where it's from. It's kind of funny because I'll tell people that from time to time, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that."
Derek the Kid. I would have never, by 2012, I think I got a Twitter at in 2012, 2013. So Mike Wallace has already gone. I would have never known that in my life. I don't even think I follow him. Is it still?
It is still.
Mike the Kid?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Mike,
there it is.
Wallace
the legend
Kid is what it is.
Mike Wallace the Kid, Derek the Kid. Yeah. We'll let Steelers Nation decide what one's better. I got a feeling who they pick here, if we're going to be honest. But, like you just said, people are a little biased. So no hate out there to Mike Wallace. We love a good Mike Wallace. I agree. I think he's very underrated in Steelers history as a wide receiver. And at the time when the whole Antonio Brown getting a major contract over Mike Wallace thing happened, I mean, that could win either way. Obviously, the Antonio Brown situation worked out for the best, until a couple of years ago. But that's overall, it worked out for the best.
Yeah, that's the thing, too. It worked out good for us. I mean, I like Mike. He's been, in my interactions with him, he's been really cool. But it worked out well for us. We got Antonio out of it, and we had a good run there until, things kind of went off the rails. But
yeah, until 2018. But that's all right. I actually just missed the whole Antonio Brown segment. I think that, I come in, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, oh, my first year was the Duck Hodges year, which was pretty awesome. But it would have been even better, I think, if I started off at the end of the Antonio Brown craziness and then just went right in and then right into COVID and now Ben's disaster of a year. It could be me. I could be the problem, if we're being honest. Kid Fridays.
Y'all know who to blame.
We all know. Yeah. All righty. It's week 5. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 1-3. The Denver Broncos come to town. Teddy Bridgewater is expected to play. He was cleared from concussion protocol today. So if the Denver Broncos want him out there, they could have him out there. Melvin Gordon is also expected to play after a lower body injury. I want to start with the quarterback. When you look at Teddy Bridgewater, he's been pretty effective. As effective as he might have ever been in his NFL career so far. I understand that that's a roller coaster of a ride that he went on there. A lot of injuries. What do you see from him, and how does he work in this Denver offense?
Yeah, I mean, Teddy's kind of always been that guy, man, at least in the last couple of years. He's had to take some spots that haven't been – there just been teams that haven't wanted to, they wanted to go on dates with him but not wanting to marry him, I guess, long term. And that's kind of been the rep with Teddy, right? Yeah. He's always been this, careful game manager type quarterback who's going to make the plays that are presented to him. But he's just not really overly dynamic, and he doesn't push the ball down the field a ton. But this year, it kind of seems like, he has been pushing the ball down the field more. So, I think that's kind of where you see just a little bit of a difference in terms of like what he was showing the first 3 games, before he was knocked out of the last game against the Ravens. Just the ability to push the ball down the field. And Denver, they've got the weapons to do it, man. Like Noah Fant, he's an awesome young tight end out of Iowa. Before KJ Hamler got hurt, you look at the speed that he kind of brings that offense. Cortland Sutton, kind of a big body, jump ball receiver, but he can do some things on the perimeter. So even like guys like Tim Patrick, like good players that can really help your like passing offense. So I think Jerry Jeudy is like one of the best route runners in the game too. He was wide receiver 1 for me coming out of Alabama. So they've just got a bunch of weapons that they can use, and he kind of uses at his disposal. So Teddy's playing pretty well, man. It's cool to see. I'm from Louisville, so it's kind of cool to see Teddy doing well. He's a great dude. So
yeah, Teddy Bridgewater. I've always been a fan of Teddy Two Gloves. I feel like he got it. Like the dude was Lamar Jackson, but like we were already kind of past like at that point. There was like a couple of those quarterbacks right in a row that were just like, this guy's real cool. And like I think Teddy Bridgewater like started that one off. Tommy Armstrong came after that in Nebraska. There was a lot of them. It was the start of the train. I agree, though. I think that what Bridgewater is doing real well is he's just connecting. I think that was his biggest issue back in you could go as far back as Minnesota, but especially last year in Carolina is he didn't really like there wasn't that. I don't know. He was unable to go deep. Obviously, that's always been a concern of him, but he was just off. Like everything just seemed like nothing was clicking. He was unconfident in his team. He was unconfident in his decisions. This season, I feel like he's got a lot of faith in these guys that you talk about. And obviously that room is, it's one of the best rooms out there. And that's hard to say because there are a lot of wide receiver tight end combos in the NFL right now that are dirty. But Noah Fant, obviously it starts there. Keith Butler literally was asked, who are these guys in Denver? He said 87. That's it. That's all we got to worry about is 87. It's true. The dude has come into himself. And I think, was this year 3 for Noah Fant here? Cortland Sutton. I think Cortland Sutton, that's the problem with all these wide receivers is they've never been healthy together. Obviously, last year was Judy's rookie season, but they've always, at least one of them's dealing with something. Last year was Judy. Before that or after that, it was Sutton. This year it's Hamler. When they're all together, they click. They play those roles so well. And Teddy Bridgewater's, and people call him a game managing quarterback. I don't think he is. I think he just runs that style where he uses everyone to their advantage just about as well as anybody else right now.
Yeah, Teddy's he's a capable starter, man. Like, and that's the thing. If the surroundings around him are good, like Teddy's gonna play above the line. I think like the Carolina thing was just kind of always a little bit of a clunky fit. Just didn't, they were in Carolina was in a lot of close games last year, and them not being able to pull those out at the end, I think gave the fan base and kind of ownership a lot of questions toward Teddy, like would he be that guy, ball in his hands, 2 minutes left, like can he get the job done? And just because of the way things transpired last year, that's what led to the trade for Denver. But it's kind of interesting to see him play so well early on. Like hopefully he stays healthy to see like what kind of happens, because I think he's in the last year of his deal. I think he's got 1 year left, so he's going to be a guy that Denver's going to have a decision to make on to whether they want to commit to him long term.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an easier decision for him though than it is for a guy like Drew Lock. I mean, I was always like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's just, I don't know why. Like maybe it's the dancing on the sidelines thing. Like people were just like, that guy's got some swag. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, man. I do the same thing in the grocery store. I'm not signing with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, like that's the thing with Lock is Lock's kind of fun to watch because like Lock has no he has like arrogant arm strength, like that term that like the draft community is using now. Like dude has a cannon, but that's the thing is like he does not understand what like no window is untouchable for Drew Lock. Like he'll throw into just some awful windows, even throws that he can't make. So they made a good decision to start Teddy, in my opinion. We would have won this weekend if Drew Lock plays. Let's just
I said that last night in the show with
this game, Lock plays.
My predictions last night were if Drew Lock plays, it's the Steelers game easy. I'm putting all my money on it actually. Let me ask this. When we go back to the wide receivers, the Steelers are dealing with injuries. And Cam Sutton, I mean, I don't think anybody realized this coming into the season, but losing Cam Sutton might be the biggest blow the Steelers could possibly take. At one point, it was Jameer Jones and Derek Tushka playing outside linebacker. Not as big of a loss as not having Cam Sutton on the field this week. How big of a challenge is it for a guy like James Pierre? Justin Lane will probably get some. And do the Steelers have the capabilities of slowing these wide receivers down without Sutton out there?
I mean, I think you're going to see even more of what you saw in the past couple of weeks, which is going to be a lot of zone coverage. I think it does probably it's going to be interesting to see if it does restrict their ability to kind of like blitz and put pressure on the quarterback too. Just because, like I think they've just been trying to really protect these corners, man. I just don't think that they trust them out there on man coverage. The Steelers don't have the personnel right now to really live in that kind of realm of where we're just going to man up against the other team's receiver, just because they really lack speed on the outside. Like you look at Hayden, he's an older guy. Pierre, like, he's more of that like tall, physical type corner. They don't really have, Sutton, not a crazy athlete. But reading Zach's comments, it's funny. But I think it's gonna be interesting to see, man. It's gonna be a big test for them because, like I said, this Denver receiver group is really underrated. I feel like, especially I haven't seen a lot of talk on Twitter about like worrying about them, and I'm freaking out. Like I'm watching the tape, and I just don't like our matchups for that. So I think you're gonna see a lot of like zone coverage and trying to protect those guys. Maybe you see a guy like Arthur Millette more.
I was going to say
with Sutton now. At least, like we saw a little bit last week, what Millette gives you instead of a guy like Norwood or even Sutton, I think he just works really well downhill. He kind of little bit Mike Hilton-ish where you can do some blitzing things and he's good against the run and things like that. So I think that might be an area where they can use him. Smitty's saying he's a big Tim Patrick fan. Tim Patrick's a baller, man. He might be one of the best wide receiver fours in the league.
That's what I'm saying. Tim Patrick, when all those guys were playing at the beginning of the season, I was like, there's no way Tim Patrick makes it past. There's no way he makes it to Pittsburgh. Like he should have been traded He should have been traded heading into the season. And they released somebody else that was also, I don't even remember who it was, but my dad, like I was telling you before the show, my dad's a big Denver Broncos fan. This is a big week for my family group chat. A lot of smack. But he tells me, I mean, I've been a Tim Patrick fan since he came in the league because all he does is talk about Tim Patrick, loves Tim Patrick. And then there's this other guy, I don't remember who it was, but he was their wide receiver 5 who was just as good in his opinion. That's who they're looking up against. I agree. I think it is going to be a lot of zone coverage. I think it's a lot of Arthur Millette this week, but I was going to touch on that. I think Arthur Millette was outstanding last week. I mean, there were moments he's still very, I don't want to say unreliable, but he's very questionable in coverage still. I don't know how much I trust him against some of these guys, but he played the run as well as anybody has this season at the nickel position or in the slot. I think that's got to be a thing moving forward. It could be big because pressure on Teddy Bridgewater changes a lot. You get to the quarterback, you don't really you for one, doesn't give the wide receivers any time to beat a cornerback if you got to get the ball out of the pocket quicker than or sooner rather than later. Does that mean that that's how you stop Teddy Bridgewater? No, not a chance. You don't stop Cortland Sutton with TJ Watt. That's not how that works. James Pierre could be in for a rough one. On the other side of the football, we'll jump into this one. We'll start with this question here. Getting Haskins on the field. Ben Roethlisberger is dealing with, he doesn't have a hip. He doesn't have a pec. His left tit's gone. Everybody's calling for him to be benched at this point. It's not going to happen. Right. He's probably going to play this week. When you look at the Steelers offense and their struggles, especially with Ben Roethlisberger, how concerning is it this week against the Denver Broncos? And before you even answer that, give me a little bit of what the Steelers can expect from this Denver Broncos defense.
Yeah, I mean, as far as from the Broncos, like you look at any of the measurables from where they stand this year, I mean, they're one of the top defenses in the league. Getting Von Miller back, I mean, that's not just, his on the play resume, but, he's one of the leaders for that team. You look at they're second in points per drive, 7th or 4th in yards per drive, 11th in turnover percentage. They instead of taking a quarterback, they drafted who I thought was the best corner in the draft last year, Patrick Surtain. A guy that's like 6'2", 210, really physical, but he can also run. He's fluid. can get up at the line of scrimmage and win. They got a good
Where's the
secondary. I think
ugliest number 2 ever?
it is. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a homer, I guess, and maybe I'm just old, but I hate the single digits on
The only one I like
corners
is Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons, number 8.
Yeah,
there,
he's kind of a weird.
I like that one, but I feel like
Yeah.
he's like that weird hybrid position. Like he doesn't really count. You know what I mean? Besides
Yeah.
that, like
It's just
Trayvon
weird,
Diggs,
man.
like every time he picks off the ball, I'm like, dude, you're wearing 7, man. That shouldn't even count.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like the same thing. I saw there's a tight end for I think Liberty last year that I was watching that was wearing 0. This year was wearing 0. I'm like, dude, stop. But no, I mean, I love Denver safeties too. I mean, everybody knows about Justin Simmons. You know, he's one of the top paid players in the league on that side of the ball. But I think Kareem Jackson is I think he's one of the most underrated players in the entire league. And I've thought that really for a couple of years now. Like his move to safety in that kind of Fangio quarter scheme has been a seamless one. Like he's so good, man. Like he lets them do a lot of things on defense that I just don't think they would be capable of doing without him. So starts up front kind of with Vaughn, but they've got some studs in the secondary, man. They're gonna get Ronald Darby back, which he's a little up and down to me, but Bryce Callahan, the Sly. I mean, they've got a lot of guys. There's a lot of talent over there. So be interested to see what the Steelers can do, man. They're not really clicking on offense.
That's what I'm going with this one. What can the Steelers do against these guys? Like I'm with you, and I think that a lot of people underlook how good this Denver Broncos defense is. It's no surprise that, or it's no secret that the offense is struggling right now.
I mean, they've been pretty good against the run too. Like you saw the Steelers take a step forward last week in the run game and on the offensive line, but I think this front for Denver is better. Yeah, I think the front for Denver is better than what we saw last week. And I think Denver was weak in some areas that the Steelers could exploit, like with the off coverage. And I also think they just don't have, without Zadarius Smith, they just didn't have the talent up front to really dominate. But Denver is a little different because they do if the Steelers offensive line kind of regresses to the mean or what they were in weeks 1 through 3, they could be in for a long day. But it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to see the Steelers weapons like kind of match up against these Broncos corners too. Like I think that's gonna be a heavyweight fight. So hopefully we get some more
I was gonna say
Deontay.
It's going to be a lot of Deontay, but they might not have. I mean, Chase Claypool is probably going to end up questionable. I would guess that James Washington's probably a long shot to play since he got hurt. It's going to be a lot of Deontay, but Deontay on Surtain will be cool. I think that'll be a good matchup, fun to watch.
Oh yeah. Hey, we called that too. Like if y'all were listening to the show last week, we talked Deontay versus Jair, and then first what was it, like 5th play of the game or something like that. We saw it, so it's pretty cool. So, it's a good matchup.
Derek the Kid Fridays. It's not like we don't know what we're talking about over here. There's a reason that we have a special day for Derek the Kid. For Derek the Kid. Let me ask this: Ben is like we said at the beginning of this one. Actually, let's jump over to Colleen Wallace real quick. Answer this one. Settle everybody down a little bit. Do you think the Steelers' season's over? They're only 2 games behind the division. No, I don't think it is.
No, is their season over right now? No, I mean. They've got a big chance right here over the next. I mean, they play 4 of the next 5 at home, but they've got 2 games until the bye. I think there's got to be some level of optimism. Like say if they were to win these next 2 games, I mean, you're right back in the thick of things. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I was optimistic. I was trying to be optimistic and predicted them 9 wins. So we would pretty much be on course for that if you win the next 2. So I mean, I think there needs to be a very big sense of urgency, but panic. We're really close with the offense, I think. But like as far as with the team just not having any chance of making the playoffs, I think we have to wait at least until this Sunday's over and probably next. And then you go into the bye and you kind of think about what you're looking at for the rest of the way, if you even got a shot or not.
Or if you're looking at quarterbacks more than you are the rest of the season, we'll figure that out in 2 weeks. But right now, we're already there. Gave you a shout out yesterday, actually. That was – if you guys haven't checked out Derek's quarterback rundown for the Steelers' next quarterback, you should, because he pitched it to me, and I was like, yeah, man, no doubt. And I thought we were getting 4 options here, nothing. It's every single option the Steelers could possibly go after, and every single one of them I want. I think everybody else wants to. Teddy Bridgewater's on that list, actually.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger, real quick, Colleen, the Steelers season's far from over, like you said. They got these 2 games. Russell Wilson might not even play next season or next week. That's a huge, huge advantage for the Steelers. Even if the Seattle Seahawks are probably still a little bit better offensively than the Steelers, you don't have Russell Wilson. I don't know how good you are at all. That could be a win. Denver Broncos could definitely be a win. It might be a stretch right now to say because they're pretty healthy and looking good, but it could happen. There's still a lot of optimism left on this team. Sell the team as around the 4-2 says. Ben Roethlisberger, he doesn't have a pec. He now doesn't have a hip. If you ask him, he's not even going to show you because he's going to make your stomach upset. It's going to freak you out. That's what he said. It's how black and blue it is. So it's got to be bad. What goes into this? We talked a little bit beforehand. Ben's mechanics are a disaster right now. How much worse can they possibly get if you don't have a hip and you're a quarterback trying to throw a football with one arm, with one pec?
Yeah.
I get it, it's the left side, but that's still got to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, the pec injury is that, I mean, it's more of a pain tolerance thing, and it is going to hurt like as he throws, but not a huge issue, at least from my opinion. Not a doctor, but I don't think that's a huge issue. The hip, it really just depends. Like, are we talking like a bone bruise? We talking like a muscle thing?
Black and blue, and would make you sick to your stomach. That's what it is.
I mean, it kind of just depends, but like you can definitely tell. I mean, obviously we could tell Ben's age has shown up early in the early portions of the season, but you know, like we talked about his mechanics, and like, you know, when you're going through injuries, it kind of does force things like out of whack a little bit, maybe more even so than they already are. Because Ben's mechanics, like we talked about it, like for when he was off for that entire year, 2019, like with his elbow, I don't see, I mean, there has been a physical deterioration, like in terms of his mobility, and like the arm isn't as strong, but I still think it's like, you know, I mean, it's strong enough. His main problems right now are his lower body mechanics are all out of whack. I mean, he's not pointing towards his target. You know, he's not getting set on his throws. He looks really antsy in the pocket. Like his internal clock is just forever sped up. He has no trust in his offensive line. So there's he also mentioned in the post game on Sunday, I believe, that like there were times where he was dropping his elbow, which he was. So there's a lot of things that go into that that are kind of contributing to his, you know, kind of poor start to the season. So I was happy to hear him at least like talk about his lower body mechanics, because Ben's always been a guy that just like, I think people misunderstand it. Like, oh, he doesn't care about mechanics. Like, I think Ben's just been, when you do something for 20 years at the level he's been doing it at, that stuff just comes naturally. And then when you miss a year of football, it throws like kind of that routine off. And then when you get older and your physical talent kind of start to regress, like that stuff's even more important, because you don't have the, you know, that crazy bazooka arm strength anymore. You don't have the legs that you can run around like crazy, like Tomlin talked about in his presser this week. So all that stuff gets more kind of critical as you get older. And like right now, that's what's failing him more than anything, is just the mechanical aspect of it. So it's fixable, but it is harder when you're not, you know, healthy. I don't know what percent he'd probably say he's at, but
it's got to be low. I mean, you look at the hip, you're going to get sick. That's what
so
it can't be good. Tomlin, I will agree with you. Tomlin said it on Tuesday that the only thing really that Ben has an issue that you cannot fix right now is his mobility. You can't fix the physical deterioration that comes with being 39 years old and getting hit as much as he has. And as we watch the film more and more, you kind of realize like he's kind of right. Like, and don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that Ben's in a position to instantly be better, but it does put Ben in a position to get better, which is very hopeful compared to what the narrative was 6-7 days ago, that Ben's just done. He's just washed up.
Yeah.
When you go back and look, maybe he's not. I mean, he's done. Don't get me wrong. This is the last ride for Ben Roethlisberger. But there are things that could turn him into a solid quarterback. The biggest thing is he's got to trust his offensive line, because you can't get set if you're freaking out about the 5 guys in front of you as soon as you snap the ball.
Yeah, and that's like kind of the frustrating part, man, is like I think that he's just, with him getting hit so much early in the season, you could definitely tell like he's he's thinking a lot back there. And I think there's been times where he's been trying to do too much. And then there's been times where, like, he's just been reluctant to see his reads through because he's trying to get the ball out so quick because he's trying to avoid, taking a sack or a bad play or turning the ball over. But, like, that's the thing about – I think the Steelers, like, offense – and maybe this is me just being too optimistic, but I think we're really close to, like, rock bottom. Like, we're not there yet, but we're really close. But I think, like, it has been a perfect storm of, like, bad things that have happened. The receiver carousel of injuries, his right tackle not been there. Ben's played about as bad as we've ever seen him play for the first month of the season. But you look at things, and this is just how the NFL goes, but they're really only, like, one or two plays, man, away from, like, being really close to at least the level of offense that we expected. Like, if he hits one of those plays to Juju.
He hits one of those plays to Juju, and I might have muted you. I don't know why you muted yourself. When he hits one of those plays to Juju, and then the field goal doesn't get called back, Steelers win that football game. That's where we're at. Derek's muted. We got some technical difficulties coming on.
It's my AirPods for some reason.
AirPods are tweaking out. Technical difficulties.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. If Juju can just get like if he catches one of those balls, like we're probably looking at a different game. And like the first throw was, 6 inches off. The second throw, they were a little bit out of sync. Like Ben led him too far to the inside. It's those plays, if they can just hit on a little, like they're going to have to hit on some of those plays that are given to them, and they're just not right now. So it's not beyond fixable. It's just their margin for error, just because Ben's not the level of talent that he used to be. He's not that like guy that can elevate others. And you have a young, inexperienced, like kind of struggling offensive line. Like those things kind of reduce your margin for error. And there's not one right now. So they have to make those plays. And when they don't, you see things like what happened about Green Bay, lose the game. So
I agree. And I think Denver comes down to stuff pretty much just like that. I think the Steelers could walk away with a win in this game. They are 1-point favorites, which is where I'm going to ask you, because that's how we end Derek the Kid Fridays. Fridays with Derek the Kid. Steelers at home, Denver Broncos, week 5. Some are calling this a must win. I think that some of us agree a little bit that 1-4 and 2-3 are totally different league. Totally different league. Steelers are 1-point favorites. What's your prediction for this week? Let me go back to back. Let me ask 2 questions here. Second prediction. Do you think Najee Harris gets over 80 yards against the Broncos? And what's your prediction for the game?
Are we talking total yards?
No. He could easily end up with 100 receiving yards. That does not count.
Don't give me the under on the rushing, for sure.
For sure.
This is a game that I really want to like. I know Teddy's been good. I also want to point this out, and I do want to admit that like Denver is a quality team, and I'm by no means trying to dismiss them. Their opening schedule was the Giants, the Jags, and the Jets. And
they do have the easiest schedule in football.
It's the National Football League, and there are no easy wins, but like that's a pretty good start in comparison to what some other teams have started with. So I do want to say that, like, if I could trust the defense to be what we thought they were as far as like an elite, like top 3, top 5 unit that's going to be able to carry this team and keep them in games, I'd pick the Steelers. But like, I kind of know the offense is going to struggle. Like, I just don't know. I don't know when that's going to turn around or if it does. But man, like, they would have gotten a 40 ball put on them last week against Green Bay if that game was even close. So like, I don't have that trust that they're going to be able to keep Denver in that like 23, 24 point range to even give the Steelers a shot. Like, I guess I'll take Denver like 24-20. I guess is what I'm going to say.
24-20. That was my prediction too. I think it's close, but I don't have trust in the defense yet. And the offense
is just bad. Like, but that's kind of my point. The offense is bad, and they've got a lot of issues. But the defense should not be this bad.
Think about how different the defense is if James Pierre works out. Like if James Pierre is good through 4 games, think about this defense. It's a totally different defense.
Yeah.
Like a totally 100%. You don't have to move Minka everywhere because Minka's trying to do way too much right now. You don't have to trust 7th-round pick Trey Norwood at all. Arthur Millette, I don't even know who Arthur Millette is at this point in the season. You know what I mean? You got no worries.
Yeah, I mean they gambled there, and I mean, you know, he's got talent to where he could like turn it around and start to play better. I just think like the big storylines for me on defense is obviously the injuries. I mean, that's definitely a factor. But Minka, man, he's capable of playing so much better than he's playing right now. He's just not playing like the guy that we expect him to be. You know, they dropped 2 interceptions last week too. He dropped one of them from Rodgers. That was a gift. An overthrow over the middle. I mean, that's a safety's dream. Those are plays that Minka's made since he's been here, and he's just not making them this year. And I think that's definitely a storyline that is concerning. But I'm not worried about Minka Fitzpatrick. I mean, he's going to get it figured out. It's just, again, with the margin for error, and we knew that this offense, even under the best circumstances, was probably going to be an average offense. Like their recipe to winning this year, elite defense, average offense, you're getting to the playoffs. Right now, they have an average defense and a abysmal offense. So
it's not the recipe they're hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, that's just where they're at. And like until either the offense gets better or the defense gets better, I mean, you can't really expect different results. So I'm not going to pick the Steelers until they prove to me that they're capable of doing it again like they were against Buffalo.
I think even if they lose this one and there's no Russell Wilson next week, me, you, and Donnie got some difficult decisions to make when it comes to our predictions.
Man, we're not losing to Geno Smith in primetime.
Yeah, you never know. We lose. The Steelers lose to Geno Smith in primetime. That's when
out.
Hang it up. Everybody out there who's like, is it over? It's over after that. There's no point.
Yeah, I'm going to be on all Seahawks talk the Sunday after.
We're done, yo. We're coming in Geno Smith jerseys.
Yeah.
Just from everywhere. They definitely still sell them over there in the good old West Virginia. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk Fridays with Derek the Kid. I'm Noah Strackbein. That's Derek Bell. Make sure to check us out on Twitter. Oh, I almost called you at Derek the Kid, but it's now at Steelers_DB and at Noah Strack. And we will see you next week.